Hey guys, I'm sure that a lot of you are still reeling from all the information in terms of the respiratory system, the GI system, and now on top of that you're going to have to learn about metabolism and nutrient absorption. However, for this one, I have seriously cut the fat and have only left the most important information for you guys to know because, quite frankly, I think this is what you need to know. For the other system, for anatomy and physiology, you really do need to know a lot of those things because so much can go wrong in the body, and by you understanding how it all fits together in a story, it makes a lot of sense. This is more nutrition absorption, and if you stack it on top of the GI system, it should make a lot of sense. Now, the whole process of digestion is breaking food into smaller and smaller pieces only until that individual nutrient molecule remains. I describe this in class as Lego, where you have your 1x1 Lego block, you have your 2x2 Lego block, and then your 6 Lego block. That's all food is. My body doesn't know this is a Pop-Tart. It doesn't. When it eats it, all it's going to see is that, oh, there's carbohydrates in it. Depending on how long that carbohydrate chain is, will determine how complex of a carbohydrate is. Essentially, is it a single individual unit, like a glucose, or is it a complex version, like a dextrose? There's going to be pictures, it's going to make sense, don't worry. However, let's look at the two different types of digestion. There is mechanical, we've talked about this, where food is physically broken into smaller and smaller parts, and chemical, where the chemical bond between food molecules are broken. All nutrients go through the same mechanisms of chemical or mechanical digestion. Mastication, so chewing in the mouth, charting in the stomach, and segmentation in the small intestine. Chemical digestion varies from each nutrient because of the specific digestive enzymes that are required for breaking those individual bonds in food. This figure is wonderful, and this is what I'm going to explain, as well as a little bit of a table here. It goes from the mouth to the stomach to the small intestine, and it's divided up into carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. The main big unit that you consume of these macronutrients you can see is a polysaccharide tail for carbohydrates. It is a long chain of carbs. In the mouth, you have salivary amylase, which is going to be the first enzyme that is introduced in the entire GI system. And what that does is it starts to break down those polysaccharides into oligosaccharides. You can see that it is taking these super long chains and breaking them into smaller chains. Nothing happens with the proteins, nothing happens with the lipids. We now get into the stomach, where we have pepsin. If you remember correctly, pepsin was secreted by the chief cells in the gastric glands. They're secreted as the precursor, pepsinogen, and they are activated because of those low levels of pH found in the stomach. Pepsin is going to take these polypeptides. Peptide is protein, poly refers to similar here, poly, it's just multiple. And what pepsin is going to do is it's going to start breaking those chains as well. In the stomach, you have gastric lipase for the lipids, where it is going to make that big molecule into smaller and smaller molecules. For lipids, think about them as that fat that you can see when you have oil and you put it into water and you're trying to clean your dishes, and those little tiny big globs of fat go into smaller and smaller globs. It's infinitely easier to digest and break apart smaller globs instead of that huge big glob. Now, we are in the small intestine. Primarily, we are going through the duodenum and jejunum. The duodenum is getting this pancreatic enzymes, which is going to assist in carbohydrates and protein, and you get the bile from the gallbladder, which is going to help with fats. So for the pancreatic amylase, this is going to continue to break those oligosaccharides into smaller and smaller chains. You have your brush border enzymes. Remember, your brush border is found in your small intestine with those microvilli that looks like little tiny ones. You don't need to know those enzymes because there are too many. Don't worry about them. You need to know 3. I know I'm saying don't worry about them. You need to know 3. There's a table. It's maltase, sucrase, and lactase. Those are going to break up these remaining oligosaccharides into monosaccharides. Mono is referring to 1. So those are individual building blocks. And that's actually what's going to be absorbed into your bloodstream. Pancreatic enzymes, the ones that you will need to know from the pancreas are trypsin, chymotrypsin, carboxyl peptidase. And this is going to assist in breaking those small peptides and polypeptides into smaller and smaller ones. And then once you get into that interstitial brush border, you have dipeptidase and tripeptidase. Don't worry about those too much as well. You just need to know that they are the intestinal brush border, which is going to create those peptide chains into amino acids. That is the smallest functional unit of proteins, similar to how a monosaccharide is the smallest functional unit of carbs. Now, bile. Bile comes in and essentially creates these star-looking things. With pancreatic lipase, you get free fatty acid chains and monoglycerides. Monoglycerides are going to be that functional unit that you're looking for the smallest thing that will be absorbed not by the capillaries, but by the lacteal to enter into the lymphatic system. Remember, that's the transportation of fats. This table is going to be your best friend. This table combined with here, I would try to make a hybrid, and when I come back from vacation, I will actually assist in making something and post it. But you can see here, salivatory amylase, the salivatory glands, and the reaction catalyzed. If you know this chart, you know the metabolism and absorption section. You're good. Now, you can see down here, I didn't mention nucleic acids, nucleases. These come from the pancreatic juice, and while they're not necessarily a macronutrient, it is the other building block that your body relies on to create its DNA and genetic structure. Don't worry about it for the exam, just something to know. Lastly, this image right here is the long and short summary of the GI system. You can see here, you have your mouth, the food is ingested, it's masticated, chemical digestion turns it into a bolus. I would also write in, if you want to be extra fancy and really study, I think this graph or this figure right here, I would print it out and start including let's see if I can actually do it on Word. Let's do let's do a little text box. And then with food being ingested in the stomach, granted, I would print this out and do this on a sheet of paper because it's easier to write in or something, but you could do food is ingested in the stomach, where mastication and chemical digestion turns it into a bolus. Wow, that is real small. Salivary glands release saliva, which contains salivary amylase, which breaks down polysaccharide. I would also include the stuff from this table so you can see where it's happening and what's going on. Now, This occurs in the swallowing reflex, and it propels the bolus to the stomach. The bolus is churned and chemically digested into chyme in the stomach. What should you include right here in a little text box? Hint, hint. Think about going back up here and trying to see what happens in the stomach and take the information from here. Just fill it out. Continue to go through this. I think this is going to be an excellent summary of what you know and putting it all together, combining the anatomy, the physiology, and the metabolism. I believe in you guys, and you got this.